Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. This week Barbara and I are travelling to Italy to try Angelo Poretti. But first, Barbara, what have you got going on in the hot topic for me?
Well, it's quite a big day today, isn't it, Joe? We've got Great Britain has been blessed, in inverted commas, we've got a new Prime Minister. We've got brand new cretin in charge. Sorry, you shouldn't take it to too much of a political place. Boris is out. Liz is in.
Yes.
It's been a tumultuous time. That's obvious. That's fair to say.
Yeah.
But people are already into Liz for what she needs to get. So actually, I can't keep calling her Liz.
We can't call her Liz.
I can't call her
because
Liz,
she's going to get confused with the old Queenie, isn't she?
Yeah. Well, Queenie and your wife, in truth.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I was thinking more for the general public situation. They're probably more akin with the Queen than they are with my wife.
I beg your pardon. That's who you meant when you said the Queen. I like it, right, with you. But okay. Madam Truss, in that case. Loads of stuff going on in the news, probably not news to a lot of people, but, cost of living crisis, energy bills going through the roof. So
quite a large war happening on the eastern front of Europe.
Exactly. Lot of beef going on, but particularly we mentioned going on, particularly we just mentioned cost of living crisis, are much cherished breweries are in the firing line a bit because they, like anyone, are going to feel the cost of living crisis and particularly these high energy bills. So I understand CAMRA, as we all know, Campaign for Real Ale, are already urging the new Prime Minister, these are some of the things we need in order to be able to survive. One statistic I saw going around in the last week or so, I don't know if you've seen it as well, but they said if you put it in the context of how much energy bills going up, it basically the equivalent in terms of having a pint of beer means your pint is now going to cost somewhere between 15 and 20 quid.
Wow.
So that's the scale we're talking about. And, energy is something everyone's got to pay for. So that's what, in theory, breweries should be charging us for our beer because they're going to have to suck up those costs as well. So everything's going to be more expensive. So, CAMRA pleading to our new Prime Minister to basically, introduce a cap or some sort of measures to mitigate this. So, not a great bit of news, but it's something that's obviously close to our hearts.
Well, it's also very on point. I mean, as you say, this is not, it's not just the beer industry who are raising these kind of concerns. This is being felt across countries, and especially here in the UK at the moment. I've just, from my news media, I'm seeing a lot of these kind of now Liz Truss is in. It's here are the things we need from you from X industry or whatever. I saw one earlier on, actually, beer related from Days Brewing. We covered Days quite a few episodes ago, and they basically had a very similar kind of vein of hey, Liz Truss, you're now Prime Minister. Here are things that we as our company, but also the broader non-alcoholic and beer industry would like from you. And I think maybe that links is, obviously CAMRA is CAMRA and they hold a lot of weight, and they obviously are speaking for a lot of breweries here. But it's interesting that even from an individual brewery basis, they're willing to tag Liz Truss on LinkedIn in these messages to say, "Oi, talking to you, Liz."
Yeah, that's got to be quite bad. She just turns on LinkedIn, and to be honest, I don't check mine very frequently, but it comes up and it goes notifications. When it runs out of a number. I don't get this handy on LinkedIn. I should say this is probably for the Prime Minister. Just got ... But it's. Go on.
It'd be good to be thinking if she actually goes through those LinkedIn messages. But I have a feeling that she's got people looking at that, or screening them for her.
I haven't got time for this, to be fair. But
she sat at home flicking through. Oh, Days Brewing sent me a note.
I've heard she's more into Instagram actually as well. A little bit of Twitter, and actually
she dabbles in Twitter. I can see that.
I don't think she's on Reddit.
No.
Because I think that she probably gets quite a lot of stick on Reddit. But
a massive TikTok following. Who'd have seen it?
You wouldn't have called her, would you? But isn't that Nadine Dorries on the the now former Minister for Culture, Media and Sport, she's all over it, but she probably calls it Toctic or something like that, to be fair. I mean, we joke though, but, at the same time, with things the way they're going, could be quite serious.
Well, I think it's serious, but also as well, I'm pleased to see that people are standing up, saying this is what we need. I mean, hey, with everything that's being said going forward, all doom and gloom as it, from one end to, it'll all blow over from the other end. At least we can all agree that there's going to be a place for the breweries within this, and this industry needs to survive. Not that, we want the majority, if not all, breweries to survive. But obviously within hard times, there's always some level of scaling back, others that find it more harder than others. My favourite, kind of anecdote, I suppose, in this area of going through hard times and, the kind of the brewing industry pulling together. I might have mentioned this before, but, there was a big hop drought in the States. Probably in about 2008 time, so when a lot of the craft beer scene was kind of getting up and going, and there was a lot of, microbreweries and kind of getting going. And this hop drought basically came in. So basically there was just a real scarcity for hops. So obviously, as we know, hops are major ingredient for making beer.
One of the big five, actually.
Pretty much needed, yeah. And all these breweries were basically on the cusp of saying, well, I mean, we literally can't make our beer, we can't sell anything, we're going to go under, blah, blah, blah. Sam Smith's, as we know, Sam Adams, one of the biggest brewers in the US, at that point basically opened up their hop reserves and just gave them out, or fraction of the price, whatever, basically just helped out all of these microbreweries and small groups and, even that medium-sized breweries just stay afloat basically during this period. And I think there's a lot of breweries that probably would have to thank Samuel Adams for that at that time. So even in doom and gloom times, good stories from good people can come out, and I think the brewing industry is a good testament to that.
Yeah, indeed. I'm sure things will be tough. No, there's no doubt. But I don't know. I suppose if it's of any comfort to any brewers out there who are concerned at the moment, at least it's always you do tend to have a fairly loyal set of customers. That's the only other thing I can think of to maybe help. But fingers crossed things aren't as bad as they potentially look at the moment. But I suppose only time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think talking about, the times at the moment, it's obviously worth nicely segueing into our beer of the day. Because for me, it's, especially for kind of new, kind of with everything that's going on right now, it's always quite a difficult time for any new brewery or a new kind of beer to kind of make its own scene and to kind of break into a new market. And I feel Angelo Poretti has exploded as of late here in the UK. Would you kind of say that they've at least not exploded maybe, but they've become more relevant here in the UK than they ever have done?
I exploded and I suppose snuck up on me. And I understand that possibly the beer itself, or the one that's selling, has been around. The brewery's potentially been around for quite a relatively long time, but has snuck up and all of a sudden just emerged in quite a big way. So
well, you mentioned they're quite old. How old are they?
Bear with me. 1877. I thought I saw conflicting reports on this, but 1877 seems to be the one that actually comes up a few times. So I think I'd also heard that it was 1890. But yeah, sorry, 1877.
That's the date they're kind of officially rallying around, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because I think sometimes there's also, I'm sure that there's probably a few experimental beers that happened before that, in possibly, like in the back of someone's shed or something like that. But yeah, 1877. So it's been around. Actually, that would be a good one. Excuse me for being a maths geek, but I'd love to get. Oh wow, no, it's really not interesting. Sorry.
Sorry.
I'd like to see. I'm sure you could plot it out some way, but like a graph over time of breweries and how many that could show how many live to be how long. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So say if you went back from, I think there must be one, maybe not 1000 AD, but if you started from like 1500 and just like how many numbers and
are still around now.
In my head, there's a really cool thing there, and someone will put it together.
I think you're talking about a great chart that should be on the Reddit subreddit of Data is Beautiful.
Yeah.
You've been on that one. That's exactly what I can picture. These amazing charts of data, statistical data, like synthesized into something that's like, oh wow, visualized in a really cool way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm laying down the gauntlet. That is out there. If anyone wants to or can or knows where it is already, please, because I'm really interested in that. But yeah, so anyway, 1877. So these are, blimey, they will be, what's that? That'll be 150 in 5 years' time, isn't it? So that's a good innings. But
that's a very good innings. And they come from the mind of Angelo Poretti. Surprise, surprise. So good he named the beer after himself.
He's doing the George Foreman. He put his name on it.
Timothy Taylor's,
yeah. Actually, George Foreman, yeah, sorry, I should keep it to... Well done for doing a beer reference.
No, George Foreman's fair,
Yeah.
you know. Although, can you even get a George Foreman anymore now? I mean, I know it's quite big in the States,
so. I
but
think
I don't know
they
if
might
we get them here.
They would almost go into the realms of antiques now, wouldn't they? George Foreman grill. So we're doing the Cotton Eye Joe routine there, weren't we? Where did they come from? Where did they go? They're northern. It's northern Italy, isn't it? Is it Vergana mountain range?
Yes.
Yeah.
I hadn't. If I'm quite honest, I had to Google where that is, but you would know as your kind of travel
Guilty
geography
as
buff
charged.
as you are.
Yeah.
Valgana, Italy, and they still have their headquarters is in Undunu Olona,
That's easy for you to say.
which I can only presume is in the area.
Yes. Actually, do you know what? Sorry. This got me a bit carried away because I thought, well, hang on. It's a beer that's snuck up and sort of gone really big really quickly. Who's bought them out? Who actually owns them now? And who's got the distribution networks? But I was reading also that Carlsberg bought them out, but they bought them out in like 1982.
Yeah, very early on.
So,
which I found that quite interesting because given that they've only just for us seem to have arrived, as you say, kind of popped up on our radar. I was expecting this to be a very new acquisition by maybe the Carlsberg, Marston's, group that they've now become here in the UK. But no, you're right. They've been around for a long time with this brand in their portfolio, but seemingly have only just really started to make a bit of a song and dance about it here.
I would have to also, again, another bit of interesting data and graphical analysis was also I'm trying to remind myself of which brewing conglomerates own which brands, and I was trying to think if is it because Carlsberg figured they needed to make more of their Italian premium lager or beer to go up against Moretti, Peroni. Yes. I mean, Moretti and Peretti.
Madri. We talked about Madri recently as well.
That's the Spanish one. I would say me being picky. It's still in that space, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think this is exactly why we're starting to hear more about them when they're starting to be pushed into bars and supermarkets a lot more. Is because there is now a real demand here in the UK and as a kind of a global trend for what we're kind of calling of new world lagers, premium lagers. So it's these kind of beers that are, I mean, this is, and we didn't even mention at the start, but Angelo Poretti is a 4.8%, lager style beer is how they refer to it, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
But it's like a light lager, and it's this, exactly trying to play into this space, this kind of new world premium lager space that Madri are in, that Beer Moretti, and as you say, to some extent as well, Poretti, but Peroni, sorry. But I always put Peroni in its own kind of category. I think it's like just that other level of kind of premium in my mind. But anyway, just because they've been around a bit longer and they've put a lot of branding spend behind it. But
similar to that, it's that 4.8%. So it's top fours rather than lower fours in terms of strength.
Yes,
but that quite. I suppose we should talk about what it is. Very light golden colour, crisp. Tasty for my money as well.
Can I give you the definition of how they've referred to it on the Carlsberg Marston's Brewing Company's website?
You can, yeah. They're probably. Should we see if I can guess some words that are on that? I want to say crisp and refreshing. It's just because I've said crisp, refreshing. I don't know. There's going to be something about maybe delicately hopped.
Okay.
But I was going to say not a gentle, but I think they will mention the malt, but also I've run out. No, that's all I've got. It's not like we've been doing this for a while. I've run out of words.
Well, okay. So here's how they're referring to this beer. So they refer to it as the Birrificio Angelo Poretti 4 hops is a lager-style beer characterized by a fine and sticky head with a clear appearance and straw-like color. The 4 varieties of hops enhances the hoppy taste and strengthens the head. With its balanced bitterness and flavour, it pairs perfectly with fresh cheese, salami, fish, and pasta with light sauces.
Okay. I've never heard of a beer having a sticky head before.
Yeah. So, I would have been surprised if you'd have referred to that earlier on. A sticky head, and strengthens the head, a sticky head, clear appearance with a straw-like colour. Yeah, this is an interesting descriptor.
Do you know what? I think I have heard straw-like colour before, but not many times. It's been relatively rare. The sticky head is sticking out to me. And I did see there was a little bit I read somewhere else about that they want to do a bit of pairing with foods and that sort of thing. My really infuriating thing is I've tried to... Actually, maybe if I'm being honest with myself, I could have looked harder. But I looked at a few places and I've only been able to find 2 of the 4 hops.
Yes, tell me. So they refer to themselves as 4 hops. I wonder if it's not on the back label or anything.
Well, you have to remind me where I've seen it, but Columbus and Zeus hops are involved, and I don't know the other 2, and I'm trying to find out. So there you have it.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to read what's on the back of the label because it adds a little bit more flavour. Not so much to the hops, because on the back of the label for ingredients it just says, guess what it says, Barber? Water, malted barley, and hops. It doesn't say specifically what hops. It's got them all.
It's weird though, because it's almost like it's a secret, isn't it? But imagine brewers tend to know most of the hops. And it's only for, you could put it on the label, because I imagine most people, I don't know. Are they going to...
Do you know what it'll be as well? It's because the hops will change.
Yeah, I suppose that's it, isn't it?
So the reason why I say that is, having been to quite a few breweries now, obviously you've got a lot of beers that are staple and they have to go with specific hops, and that's the ideal. But there are also times where you have to use different kind of hops for whatever reason, temperature of different countries, or kind of climate, or just logistics, not getting the same hops coming through. And so the brewmasters will pick and choose and change up the hops ever so slightly to still get the same output of beer, which is, I think, is fascinating, the fact they can do that. Also, another reason why I think that might be the case is looking on their website, diving into a bit more about their story, and one of the images that they've got on this website behind the text that talks about their hops, I can only describe it as like a hop library. It's got it's like basically just a full bleed image all across the screen with just all these little shells and shells, and they look like little separators separating out little name tags underneath. Like school like children's school bags. Little school lunches would go on their little shelf.
They use the Dewey Decimal System to. I don't quite know why I morphed into Sean Connery there. And
so I wonder, and because they've all got different names underneath, I wonder if that's an insight into their kind of 4 hops is actually it's a generic number of it. They all contain 4 hops, but what hops they are is slightly changeable, which is why you're finding it hard finding the actual names of them.
So I won't list my source because it's the one that certainly when I was a student we said don't ever use it as a source. But I was reading, it came up that Birrificio Angelo Poretti did lots of beers that basically you could almost categorise them by the number of hops they were used, basically from 3 to 10.
Oh, so they're known for their hoppy usage in beers.
Yeah, it lends a bit more evidence to what you were just saying about they want to show off, because I think they even sort of call themselves hop specialists, don't they?
Oh, yes.
So the from 3 to 10, there is one for 7. Yeah, it was the unfiltered was the 7. 7 hop. Lupoli, by the way, is the Italian for
Yes,
hops,
well, I'm intrigued because obviously I'm looking at the website now, but this is obviously the .co.uk, and it's only showing up one beer, which is the one we're having.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like an Italian website where they've got all these other beers, these fantastic beers.
I'm guessing the Birra Italiana Premium. Who knows what that means? I'm imagining that's the one that's exported. But if you're local, you might be able to get hold of the 10 hop beer is the champagne beer, 6%, which I imagine is probably I'm big guess here, but I imagine it's similar to is it Curious Brew who do the one with the champagne yeast?
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, no, that varies from there's a 9 hop, 5% wheat beer, a 9 hop porter, Australian 9 hop IPA.
And I think
Oh, go on.
Sorry, no, carry on.
Yeah, 5 and 6. They've got a couple of double malted, and there's so one of the 6 is a 7% Bock Rossa, so like a red colour that I don't know why the colour red just draws me in, and I'd quite like to give that a try. But I've got to say, very drinkable, going down very easy. Maybe because we've had a very difficult Tuesday, and it was just what we needed. Yeah,
I mean, you're absolutely spot on. I've just literally gone onto their beer for us, like their angeloporetti.it. I've just sent you the link in the chat.
Tough.
And you're absolutely spot on. Like they basically in Italy, there are loads of these beers. This is not just a one beer outfit. This is loads of beers, and they're all about the number of hops that they have in there. I've never seen a brewery do this before. This is the first time I've ever seen a brewery differentiating their beers by the number of hops, primarily through the number of hops they have, which is fascinating. I'm going to have to remember this actually because I think this is really cool in a branding exercise. So they have 3 hops, 4 hops, and they have different beers within those like numbers as well. So the 4 hopped one is obviously their primary one. This is the one that's made its way over to the UK now, but in a different branding. And they have ones, filtered and unfiltered and non-alcoholic version as well. When you get to 7, you've got different flavors of hops, of like beers inside, which is quite interesting. And then when you get to the 9 hop versions, that's when they're kind of trying what I would say is they're kind of like craft beer. Beer ones, like the hoppier ones that they have. They've got an American IPA hopped version. They've got a Belgian Blanche hopped at 9. And then they've also got a Bohemian Pils hops at 9 as well. And then they've got a 10, which is their highest number of hops, which is called the 10 hops, the Bubbles. So I quite wonder, it looks to be quite literally like in a champagne glass.
So it does, the bottle looks magnificent, doesn't it?
Look at it.
Kind of like champagne, as you might expect.
What do they say? It's this special beer that contains within it, this is again badly translated from English from Italian, the best of 2 worlds, that of beer, thanks to its use of 10 different varieties of hops, and that of wine, because it is re-fermented with the same yeast used in the sparkling process, which gives it a vinous scent and a foam with a refined perlage.
Do you know what? I quite like this. The more I sort of look at these guys, particularly if you go and look at the Italian stuff, which the Italian pitch, if that makes sense, the more it feels like it's like they are who they are, and they don't look like they've necessarily been repurposed too much. And I'm having had a look at that, I'm desperate to try all of those beers.
Absolutely, they sound amazing, don't they?
Yeah, and you can see why this one. I mean, not having tasted the others, but you can see why this one is the one we can get over here. But maybe they've now got a foot in the door.
Yeah, maybe we'll see more like the 9 hopped versions coming over, like the craftier ones coming over in the future. Once Angelo Poretti's kind of made its name here in the UK, and it does look like, as you're saying, kind of from the label, that they've gone for a different branding style on the UK version. Or the exported version, I might say, rather than the one that you can actually get in Italy. But it must be close to the same beer, if not the same.
I don't want to oversimplify it, but also if you look at the bottle here, is there a little bit of they took Moretti and took Peroni and smashed the two together? And that's what the bottle we've got. You probably am oversimplifying.
No, I think you're
I've
right.
got no objection to it, really.
No, I think you're right. I think there's a little bit of Yeah, a little bit of what's popular in the UK right now. Let's make a beer that looks favourable.
It could be that I say that they could have had this idea a very long time ago, and just now we're seeing it. But that's what I can see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the beer. Don't know about you. I'm quite enjoying it. There's a flavour.
Yeah, and it's one where, again, if you're at a UK pub and you see the arch with your 4 or 5 beers on there, I would go to it. I would say, I'll have Poretti, even if it's just in my own mind to start off with thinking that I'm going for something a little bit different, but very, very drinkable, and also, I mean, a little bit stronger, but also not quite in your 1664 5.2%, so even just dropping it down a little bit,
I'm with you. I think if I were to go and pick up any time where I would pick up a beer Moretti or a Madri or even a Peroni potentially, I'd pick this up as well. I think this is the same kind of category.
This is a lot of people are going to enjoy this at picnics in the summer as well.
Yeah. Or freezing in the in the chilly winter without any electricity and power on.
Yes, and to be honest, at that point you're going to be as up for it as any other time, I think. But on the plus side, you won't have need to have put your fridge on because you just leave it outside.
Just pop it outside. It'll be fine. Well, on Instagram they have this is Angelo Poretti UK. They have 1,200 followers. Again, still kind of growing by the looks of things. They don't even have a Twitter right now. And I'm going to have a try and find it very quickly. Angelo Poretti.
Italia.
I think did we close that off?
Sort of. Yeah. We can just cut it off after those. Okay, stopping.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barber,
and Simo,
goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.